back out here at the machine now. I have my part in the vise. I located my part the same way that it would look as I view the print. And I want to go ahead and make sure I do that to make my life easier. I don't want to have to turn my paper upside down to match the lines that I've scribed on my part itself. So I've also went ahead and I loaded up my edge finder, and I've adjusted my spindle RPM to approximately 600 RPMs. Now let's go ahead and go over the edge finding process. Now, while I edge find this part, what you're going to notice is the end of my edge finder can move freely. It's connected by a small spring, and the spindle is going to be rotating around, and then I'm going to move the back jaw against the end of the edge finder. Now the end here has a diameter of 0.200, 200 thousandths. When the back jaw gets closer, you're going to see less and less run out of the end, and then eventually it'll be motionless, and then I'll move a little bit further and it'll jump off and stay. At that point, I stop movement of my handle and I zero out my readout, or I would zero out my hand dial. I'm going to start using the readout at this point. Now, that tells me that the center line of my spindle in the Y-axis is 100 thousandths, 0.1, on this side of the back vice jaw surface. What I desire is to have the center line of the spindle be right on edge of the back jaw. And then I know that with my digital readout, if I were to zero it again and then come down to where my readout had a 2-inch reading, 2.000, that I would be exactly 2 inches down, which is the distance that the lines we just scribed were in the Y-axis for the large 1-inch hole center location. So here we go. I'm going to turn on the spindle. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and push the end so it's off center. Alright, so you can see I brought it up. It started to run extremely true. I went a little bit further and it jumped off. Now I'm going to zero out the readout. And the Y-axis. I'm going to raise my spindle up. And I am, again, I'm 100 thousandths on this side of the vice jaw because I have a 200 thousandths diameter contact tip. So now I'm going to move the table 0.100 and re-zero the readout. Alright, so now it's zeroed. Now, if I switch from an in view, you'll be able to see that the center line of my edge finder will be half on and half off the edge of the vise. So I'm going to go ahead and move the camera and show you what that looks like. And I always like to do this visual check. Now, the Y-axis of my machine has been zeroed, so it's time to edge find the X-axis of my part. So I got to go ahead and move the table. Now, I can actually tell right now, because I've already zeroed to the back jaw and I'm using the digital readout, that I am exactly 1.750 inches down from the back jaw. I'll start with my contact tip off center line, so it has run out. Position the table close to my part. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the spindle, and I'm going to continue to move the table to where the edge finder end will become increasingly more concentric, and then it eventually will jump off of center line, which again is when I stop movement of the handles and I zero out either the dial on the machine or I press the digital readout X-axis button to zero it out. Now, I still have to account for the tip diameter, which again is 0.200, and I will be accounting for half of its diameter of 0.200, which is 0.100. You notice that it became extremely concentric and then it jumped off center line. I stopped motion of my x-axis handle. I stopped the spindle. Now I'm going to reach up and hit X0. And then I'm going to bring my edge finder above the part, and I still have to move that remaining 0.1 because this is 200 thousandths. I'm actually going to switch the camera to the front of the machine so you will see the error that it has right now and why I have to move it that additional 0.1. So you can see from the front view here, if we're looking down the y-axis, that I have stopped the spindle, I have depressed the X0 on the readout, and you can see this 0.1 error that I'm talking about because my tip again is 0.200, so half of 0.2 is 0.1. So now I'm going to go ahead and move that 0.1 and see how it will all of a sudden bring the center line of my spindle to the edge of the part. That's it right there. That's a perfect 0.100 movement, and I'm half on and half off, which means the center line of my spindle is on the edge of that part.